Reverend Dr. Michael Gott. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Reverend Dr. Michael Gott has a fabulous career in music, and then he decided to go into ministry. Who knew, right? What was that about? But Michael has been doing ministry forever with his beautiful music. He's a hugely sought-after, well-known New Thought musician, a leader in New Thought music, and has been for many, many years. He's co-written dozens and dozens of songs with all of the major people who are also New Thought musicians that we know and love and have for the last many years. Michael has been here for a very long time, came to us in 1998, and in 1993, you're right, 93, that's when, oh gosh, I blanked out that whole first 4 years. 1993, that is so right. And became a practitioner with us. Michael and I partnered in ministry for a really long time. He taught me how important music was to the message. And we had many, many years of all kinds of creative fun, which was super, super, super fun. And when he became a practitioner and then became a minister, he went off to Las Vegas for a couple of years. In 2011, he joined Unity of Houston, one of the probably the largest unity in the country, and then he's been there 12 years, and 6 years ago he became their senior minister. Yes. So lots and lots of kudos and degrees. He was given an honorary doctorate by CSL for his music. He has ordained in both CSL and in Unity. Went to school for music, and and all of that stuff, which is that laundry list of credentials. But the minute that Michael opens his mouth, whether he is going to sing or to speak or to pray, that's the only credential he ever needs.
I love you. I like the way she said, he decided to become a minister. I have a different memory. I was in a first year of practitioner training, and Petra had been instrumental in creating a satellite of the Holmes Institute right here in our campus. And I'm not saying she was beating the bushes for students. I might say that. But we were having a meeting about something, and she said, when are you going to join ministerial school? And I just looked at her, and I won't repeat the words that came through my mind, but I thought, I don't want to do that. I've got a cool job. But it was you who planted that seed and then also grew me and continue to bless me. Monday mornings, Petra and I are on the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning talking about our lives, our communities, our work, and praying for each other. And no one has poured themselves into my life in the way that you have. And I love you. Thank you. So I saw this on the internet where all great humor comes from. So I was thinking about what could my parents have possibly done to stave off boredom before the internet. And I asked my 18 brothers and sisters, and they didn't know either. Do I need to explain that to anybody? You got it? Okay. So, first of all, I just want to say that I was a part of this community and this culture for many years, and I've been gone for many years. It's been 14 years since I've been gone. I've been a part of 2 other spiritual communities and their culture. People ask me all the time, what's the big difference between Unity and CSL? And I would say no more than the difference between 2 CSLs. I mean, just every community has its own flavor, its own preferences, its own language. And yet, I know that there are differences, and I am now fully in the culture of Unity of Houston. So if I say anything that offends you, it's not my fault. It's theirs. I'm going to blame it on them. And I also want to say that there was a Fresh Air. Remember Terry Gross? I think she's still doing that show on NPR, but she was interviewing an author who was also a Unitarian minister. And this minister was saying that they're on a plane, and there's that awkward moment when you're sitting next to someone, they ask, what do you do for a living? And she said, I'm a minister. And then the response she said sometimes is, well, I don't believe in God. And her response was, tell me about this God you don't believe in, because I bet I don't believe in him either. So, if I use a word today, like God, or something that you might have a thing about what that means, I bet that's not what I mean by that. You know, some people, there is no distance between their concept of the divine and the divine for them. They think that what they think God or spirit or the universe or divine creative intelligence, what they think it is, they think that's what it is. But that's only part of it. It's the infinite. Nobody can put their arms around the infinite. So I just need to say that. Now I'm going to preach. So my talk today is called Our Divine Humanity. And I love the emergence theme. I didn't know there was a theme, but I'm right on board. That's exactly what it is. Ernest Holmes said that humanity is divinity revealed. And I heard that, I'm sure, and I read that, and I thought I knew what it meant. But what I translated that in my mind was, when I get past my humanity, I'll find my divinity. When I heal my humanity, I'll find my divinity. And I thought that was the way it was supposed to be for a long time. You see, I came from a dualistic, evangelical Christian world where that's kind of the way it was. You're bad, you're unsaved, you're going to, that place, and then you do this thing, and now you're good, and you've got to be righteous, and you follow the rules, and you don't do the bad stuff anymore. So that worldview, that understanding of spiritual reality was what I still brought into my first, only 20 or 30 years in Science of Mind. But I think lately, I've been really understanding what Ernest Holmes meant by humanity is divinity revealed. All of it. But I'm like, wait a minute. I've had some rough moments where I didn't always act from the high truth of my oneness with divine creative intelligence and universal love. I have had those moments this morning. And I will probably have more this afternoon and tomorrow. So again, you see what my mind wants to do is go back to the old dualistic way of seeing it. Well, that wasn't divine. I'm not in my divine there. But here's what I was at a recovery meeting one time, and a woman was sharing, Starkey, and she was sharing about a box of puppies. And she'd come in, I don't know if it was her, she was just telling the story, but she comes in and the puppies had just pooped everywhere and they tracked it all over their box, and it was just a mess, just awful, and had to be cleaned up. And she's like, I think that's how God sees us. But she didn't throw out the box of puppies. She did what was needed. And understanding that's a stage of development. And what I've come to see is that every stage of my own growth and development has been divine. I had a dream yesterday morning I want to share with you. I told Micah the dream because I didn't want to forget it, and I wrote it down, and it stayed with me. I don't think it's one of the great dreams of my life, but it's got some messages for me. I'm in the little town in Oklahoma where I grew up, Avan, Oklahoma, population 400 on a busy day. And I was at the Avan Methodist Church where I grew up. I became the church pianist there when I was 12, and I was terrible, but I was cheap. I don't remember, I wasn't in the church, I'm in the dream. I'm walking around the block to my home where I grew up. It's just a block away, and I'm walking down the alley, and I noticed that the whole town is filled with water, like it had just rained and rained and rained. And there was a big flood when I was a kid, and my grandparents and great-grandparents were flooded. They had to stay in our home. Our neighbors were in our home. And I was 10. It was a party for me. It was fun. But it was that awful brown, yucky, dirty flood water. But this was not what I was seeing. It's like there had been just such a rain that everything was just permeated, but filled with life. It was green and growing, and I take a step on what I think is a green patch of lawn, and I sink to about my knee, and it was this water lily pad that were yellow. Thinking about the significance of yellow, the third chakra, the power center, the soul center of the body, the solar plexus. I think there was something in this message there. And then I'm walking, and I'm finding places to walk, but the whole thing is filled with water. The ground is just saturated, but it feels good. It feels healthy. It feels vital. And I woke up, and there was another part of the dream, but that's what I'm going to stay with, this idea. Oh, there was another insight that even in the dream, I'm realizing, well, you can't work the garden when it's like this because you'll destroy the ground. It's so muddy. You just have to let it be and let the plants soak up all of that life-giving rain, and then it will, become workable again. So I was thinking, what is this? What does this mean? Now, I tend to do the Jungian approach to dreams. There's a great book by Robert A. Johnson called Inner Wisdom. That's where, and he outlines Carl Jung's method and adds to it. First off, the person, the dreamer, the central character is the ego, usually misinterpreting what things mean in the dream. So sometimes in my dreams, I have this experience of being afraid or being against or oppositional. That's the egoic part of my mind. But as I'm analyzing it, there was a phrase that came to me from Father Richard Rohr, the wonderful Franciscan priest who is so amazingly evolved. And he has a book called The Universal Christ. And he doesn't mean Jesus of Nazareth, the man. He means that energy of oneness with the divine. And he talked about, the name of the book is actually called, it's Everything Belongs. Everything belongs. And in the book, he introduces this phrase. It's very poetic. This is one where it might trigger you, so just set it aside if it doesn't work. But he said, imagine a Christ-soaked earth. And what he's speaking about is the energy of connection with the divine in everything. That little town in Avon, Oklahoma was the site of my childhood trauma. It was the place where I first learned that there was something deeply, fundamentally wrong with me. It was the place where I formed an understanding of the world, of reality, of myself and my place in it that was completely erroneous but brought such suffering and pain. And I think that this dream was my unconscious mind's way of saying it was always holy. It was always filled with love and power. All of it. And why does this matter? Why does it matter? Because here, my beloved brothers and sisters, we are always invited into a greater realization that the divine is already here. The divine is already here. The divine is already here. And if we can begin to find those places in mind where we have not yet fully embodied that consciousness, that is our work. From page 1 of the Science of Mind textbook, are you ready? And I'm only going to read the first 45 pages. Ernest Holmes says this: the divine plan is one of freedom. The inherent nature of man is ever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom because freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All of this work of integrating the mistakes, the heartbreaks, the trauma, the disappointments, all of the loss that we experience at the human level, to integrate that into the divine plan, it brings freedom for me and for you. Now, there are two kinds of freedom. There are many kinds of freedom, but the way I usually teach freedom is there is a freedom too, that we are called to be free to fully express the divine essence that we are and to fully experience a life of abundance and meaning and fulfillment. That's what we're here to do. That is another talk for another day. Because I'm going to talk about a different kind of freedom. I'm going to talk about the freedom from. The freedom from your limiting beliefs of who and what you are. The freedom from those old patterns of thought and behavior that are self-sabotaging and keeping you small and keeping you from that other freedom. So I'm going to stay there for just a minute, but I think we're going to end up in a good place because it's all divine. Even the human mind, the unconscious mind, which is so filled with erroneous ideas, God is there too, waiting to be revealed for you, in you, through you, as you. So I want to share with you a little bit from my own life that I mentioned I grew up in that fundamentalist faith, and about the two worst things you could be were gay and an alcoholic. Bingo. Man, I mean, seriously, I thought, if these two things are true of my life, there's no coming back from this. There's no going back to church. There's none of that. I know spiritual life. It's over. So I was minding my business at Michael's Piano Bar in Cedar Springs in 1993, singing show tunes, and a man comes in, it's quiet, happy hour, and he's really paying attention to my music, so I'm singing a little bit more, and then at the break he comes, put a $5 bill in my tip jar, and I thought he comes to talk to me, I thought he was going to ask me out, and he says, "Would you like to come sing at my church?" And I thought, what kind of a church sends their minister into a gay piano bar to find a singer? I might have found my church. That was Reverend Marty Bacher, 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And all I knew is they were paying $75 for me to sing 2 show tunes. And I was so hungover, my hand shook when I held the microphone. I needed that $75. But what I really needed was this teaching of integration and wholeness and freedom. And I took that teaching in perfectly on the first try. Healed everything in that first Sunday service, and I'm good. No. I've been saying this in my church, and they laugh because they know it's true. I'm a really quick learner, except about anything that matters. I learn my lessons slowly, the ones that matter. And I've kind of come to see that that's a good thing because they have time to settle into my soul. It takes time to lay down new neural pathways. Don't rush your growth. Don't feel like, because you know what? I see this more in the recovery world, but I've seen it in New Thought too. People come in, and if they don't get perfect within 6 months, they're out. But the ones who do the biggest transformations, like you, my God, like me, we're slow learners, but we stick with it. We just keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it. Somebody said, and it's attributed to Ernest Holmes, but I have never been able to find the quote. Petra, maybe you know what it is, but describing the first 2 steps of treatment. It's remembering that there's only one power and knowing that that's who and what I am. And we get into that space of consciousness and we fall out of it. And all of our work is to keep coming back. I know that's a big paraphrase. It sounds nothing like Ernest Holmes, but that was the idea, that we just keep coming back. Petra and I talked for many years about the power of sustained, diligent effort in this spiritual work. It is not sexy. It does not sell workshops or books. But it's where all the good is. To just be willing to keep walking the walk day after day, year after year. Because here's the thing, you're never going to be perfect, and you already are. Welcome to Paradox, ladies and gentlemen. You're never going to be perfect from that human perfectionist kind of way, but you already are perfect from your divine reality. Because God is in all of it. And just like those puppies, we all have those puppy in the box moments, right? It's like, oh, I made a mess again. And yet, the divine simply only knows its own magnificence as us. And so there is no mess. There is nothing wrong. There is only a revelation of more divinity. Anyone else do the Enneagram here? Somebody else know? Just a couple of you? Oh, good. Then you won't know I'm wrong the way I talk about it. So the first time I took the Enneagram test, it's a personality test. It has a very deeply spiritual and a kind of a mystic beginning root system, but it was in ministerial school. Marianne Reed in the, I think it was a pastoral council class, she had us take it, and well, it's I know just enough to be dangerous. There are 9 types, and each type is different. There's good news and bad news. It kind of helps you understand your gifts, the way you perceive, the way you relate. Your relationship to time is a big one. That people are either future-focused, I went like this, like past focused, present focused, or future focused. I'm a future focused person. Love goals, love succeeding and achieving things. That's just kind of who I am. Here's the bad news about the Enneagram. It shows you that there is all this series of maladaptive traits and behaviors and belief patterns. That's what your psyche is made of. Here you go, have fun. It's like, whew. But I've really kind of come to see it as a beautiful window into why I keep making those same mistakes. And why that my growing edge continues to be what people think of me, And I'm just going to say about that, Brene Brown says that the only people that don't care what people think of them are sociopaths. So I'm going to leave that one there. That's another talk. I want to read a little bit of Dr. Brene Brown. This is from her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. I think it's so good. If I can make my iPad. This is not my preaching my iPad. This is my other one. There we go. Maybe. Okay, now we got it. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement or growth. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking that it will protect us, when in fact, it's the thing really preventing us from taking flight. Perfectionism is not self-improvement. There's more, but I think that's kind of what I'll leave you, that idea is that, and there are certain types on the Enneagram that are more perfectionism prone than others, and I are one. But I'm a 3, but the ones, any ones in the room? Bless your little heart. There's a right way to do it. And there is only one right way to do it. Bless your heart. Suzanne Stabile is a famous teacher of the Enneagram. She lives right here in Dallas, and she really focuses in Christian ministries, but she is very kind of Richard Rohr kind of Christian, really progressive and non-exclusionary. But she was saying in a podcast the other day that that she's seen this time and time again, these people that have such a strong and high ideals of behavior that they set to themselves. It's not about what people think. It's about doing it the right way. And she said that many times that she has been working with someone, a 1 on the Enneagram, so driven to perfection, and then they have a moment where she tells them, this voice that you've been hearing, telling you to get it better and you've done it wrong, she said, that's the voice of your inner critic. And she said they'll burst into tears because they've been thinking that was the voice of the Holy Spirit their whole lives. That is heartbreaking. And that dualistic worldview will set that up really well. That voice that, not good enough, keeping score, making a list, that voice will corrode our embodied living the life of the divine. Because we're just judging it and always it's coming up less than. Is it just me? It got quiet in here. I'm okay with an amen every once in a while. Thank you. There you are. There's my people. So here's where we want to move to. Well, first of all, I just want to set the level here is that we all deal with this, regardless of which type you are. Although she says the 8s are not like that. The 8s are just happy to be 8s. And I actually heard an interview with one where she said, no, I don't regret anything in my life. I regret the way people took what I did. That is not me. But I thought that was great. Yeah, okay. But we all, well, here's the thing. Nobody is going to graduate. Did you know that? Think about this. If there is nothing between us and the divine is our true reality, and the divine is what? Infinite, there's always going to be more to grow into. There's always going to be more to reveal, more to heal, more to evolve. You're never going to be done. That used to really piss me off. And now it lets me off the hook. Like I just get to be the puppy stage that I'm in. and taking, being accountable and being responsible, that was the piece that I had to pick up at somewhere. And understanding that my actions and choices do affect others, and I'm responsible for that. But I'm going to always be in this pattern of growth and becoming, and it is okay. And this self-critic, this inner critic that just constantly self-sabotages you, it's just useless. It's just useless. And that thing that, anybody else love blame? Don't you love it? It's just where they did it. It's their fault. And thinking about what we're dealing with in our world today with our divided political system here, with the wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, it's like, it's so easy to find somebody to blame. But what good does it do? What good does it do to assign blame? Taking responsibility and making choices and actions from here, that's the only place where we can affect change in the world. And blame. So I was during the last election cycle, and here we are in another one. It's going to be a fun year, everybody. But I would tell my community, I would just say, we're not going to blame our way out of this. Stop it. It feels good to say how bad the other side is for a minute. It's not useful. And most importantly, for the purpose of this talk today, blaming yourself, holding yourself as wrong, holding yourself as less than, holding yourself as unworthy of the life of your dreams is not useful. We need something to wake us up. Dr. Kristen Neff from UT Austin has a wonderful, she's a research-based psychologist on self-compassion. Very different from self-esteem. There are 3 elements to self-compassion. Self-kindness. Self-compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, the 3s hate that word, and experiencing life difficulties is inevitable, so they tend to be gentle with themselves when confronted with painful experiences, rather than getting angry when life falls short of certain ideals. The other 2 that she mentions, which I don't have time to go into, is we look at self-kindness first, common humanity, not the difference-making, not our isolation, mindfulness practice, develop the reflective mind that knows what it's thinking. That's why we have to meditate. To close, I want to share a story from the Buddhist tradition. It's in Buddhism. It's one of my favorite teaching stories. There's a great warrior, a samurai, who has conquered everything he's set forth. He's probably a 3 on the Enneagram. He's never been vanquished. He's highly sought after by the landowners who bring him in to ward off the invaders, and he's just really good at warrioring and very self-satisfied. And somebody mentioned he might want to develop his spiritual side. So he heard that there was a great monk who lived at the top of a mountain, a hermit, but he had deep wisdom. And so the samurai made his way to the top of the mountain. He found the wise old monk there, who was just a small little man. And he said, "Ha, monk, I have come here that you would teach me of heaven and hell." And the monk looked at him and said, You, you brute, you ignorant, foul-mouthed person, you think you could ever learn anything of spiritual reality? And the samurai, enraged, pulled his sword and was ready to strike the monk down in one blow. And the monk looked at him again and said, "That is hell." And the monk recognized what had just happened. He had been shocked out of his pattern of thinking, his violent way of being in the world. Someone had offered him an opportunity to see it differently. And he fell to his knees in gratitude that this monk had been willing to sacrifice his own life to teach him this lesson. And he wept at the feet of the monk. And the monk said, "This is heaven." I don't know what your biggest problem is, but I know you got one. That's the place where your false belief, your ingrained pattern, your unconscious mind is continuing to say, "Come here, look at this. The divine is here too." Here too. And it may require, really bad things like therapy, recovery. Who knows what yours are going to take? But what is being offered to you is a chance to discover the light of your own being that is hidden in that darkness. And it's there. And my only call to action is just start and don't stop. Read another book, take another workshop, do it, try it. Just keep engaged. Just keep, what's the thing Peter says? Just keep your nose to the wall. Just stay engaged with it. Don't go back to sleep. Don't numb it away. Don't deny it away. Just be with it. Not 24/7. You're still going to need popcorn and movies sometimes. And then one day, the breakthrough will occur and the light will shine. So I'd like to invite the band and Lainey back up. We're going to do a little song here. God bless you all. Thank you.
This song is called Living the Light, and Michael and I wrote it together back in something like, I don't know, early, before you went away. I know that, so.
joys. God is waiting to be seen.